When I started school here, I think the two biggest questions I kept asking myself is why am I really pursuing art? And if I can actually make a career out of it. Art is such a subjective and ever-evolving subject. Is it really productive to dedicate so much time, money, and effort into it if I'm not even sure I could secure a steady career in it after school? Honestly, right now, I don't think I could give a solid answer to either of those questions. But I think I know of some people who could help me find a start.
I think it means sharing, finding a space where you're able to be vulnerable and safe, and sharing those feelings that you have with the world. I think that's what creating is.
Oh, it means a lot to me. It's something I've always been doing. Like I've always done something art-wise ever since I was little. Like I started off like drawing and stuff, but then like middle school I started doing like actual theater. And it's just been something like I've always loved doing. I've always liked creating and doing things.
Performing is like a way for me to like just release all of like my inner emotions, because I'm not a very extroverted person. So when I take on a character, it's like I step into that role and I fully commit to it, and it's just like a way to like let all my emotions that I want to say but I can't say out.
Creating and performing to me is like doing things that you get joy out of while also being able to express yourself to like others in the world.
It means telling a story that is really hard to tell with words or just hard to tell in general. You can express yourself through many different ways, and it's just a way to tell people how you're feeling.
When I was like a little kid, I used to ask my mom like a million different questions, like I think a lot of kids do. And I asked her like, what makes art good? And she was just like, she like took a moment to think to herself and she said, makes you feel something. And I guess I want to do that. I want to make people feel something. Like think.
To basically just create things that make people feel seen and heard who aren't typically seen and heard. And use my voice, number one, to help others, but number two, to portray experiences that aren't typically portrayed in media and music and shit. Yeah.
I hope to make people laugh. I love making people laugh. And I also like bringing a light to more serious topics in my art. Yeah.
I'm not hoping to change the world. I'm hoping to create a little moment that'll be like, wow, what a thing, and then go away.
Yes, hopefully. Though I know art, there's so many artists out there. And each one of us are different in our own ways, but it's definitely a harder way for a career. You gotta find your passion and a job that doesn't burn you out.
That's kind of always been my dream since I was a little kid, is I always wanted to be an artist and do that as a job, but my brother and my dad were always like, you're gonna be broke and not get any money. So I was like, okay, then I will have a plan. And I do have a plan. I have a very straightforward plan.
I do want to at least maybe do something with writing in the future, making music and stuff. But I'm kind of worried that nobody will actually like my music and it won't actually like get out there. So I'm a little scared of that.
Yeah, I do. I want to be a lawyer, but before I'm a lawyer, I want to get a bachelor's in music. And it is a big worry of mine being able to find a spot as a woman and as a Black creator in which like I create music that's not mainstream. It's hard to find a place or a job or, I don't know, a spot in the world as a creator in music. Yeah.
Because like then you surround yourself with people that like I just feel like the skill set is so different than just college and like high school and middle school and stuff, because like you kind of get the like awkward first theater experiences surrounded by other people having like the same awkwardness.
Because well, one of the big reasons I would say is because in a regular school I wouldn't be able to do art this much or like do it at this level. And another big reason is that I do want to go to art school for college, so the better skills I have now, the easier it's going to be to do that and like not only get in, but like, I don't know, get used to that sort of environment.
I want to learn as much as I can at all times. And as soon as I realized how much I loved theater, I would just full commitment. There was not a doubt in my mind about having this as a hobby and as a career. Like, I think this year I took things more like to the extreme level of acting and getting into things and being in shows and putting myself out there more than I ever have before, because I was able to build that confidence, from everything that I've been able to learn up till now.
Because I like to impress people. I don't know, I just like to impress people. I like to be like, oh, he's a young prodigy, he loves music and he loves art and he loves filmmaking. And he's okay at all of them. And that's better than being less than okay.
I think that also comes from my parents. Both of them moved out of their homes when they were 16, for various different reasons. But I'm impatient, I think, is the like real answer. But also, like, when I would my dad never asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. He'd be like, what are you doing now? Like, what are you interested in now? Like, what, like, oh, you like computers? Let's get you into a coding class. Like, let's do this, you know? And when I said, like, when I was like, oh, like 10 years old, I was like, I want to be an actress. Like, they were like, okay, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do now? And some of coming to PIM was that I just really didn't want to go to my high school. But some of it also was like, well, what am I doing now? What am I doing right now to advance my career, to make myself better and better and better and better?
Be confident in yourself no matter what. Like, art is never something to be ashamed of, and if you put something out into the world and you're ashamed of it, then I feel like art should never be something you're ashamed of. You should always be proud of it because it's you. Art is yourself.
Just like be creative and like experiment and also talk to a lot of people. Like, I would not be where I am today if I didn't have a lot of different people that I knew that like could help me out and get me to where I am.
Just do it. Like, my freshman year, or like when I was younger and stuff like that, I would be like, I've always been an extroverted person, but I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I'll audition for this solo, or like, yeah, I guess I'll audition for this show, and then be like super nervous. But it's like, you've literally nothing to be nervous for. It's like, if you don't get booked in something, if you don't get exactly what you want, it's like, whatever, like just pick yourself back up, because one day you are
going to get booked. If you keep trying, you're gonna get a good end result. And yeah, just if you're younger, especially freshman year, just like do everything. I didn't do a lot when I was a freshman. I mean, I did Addams Family, but before that I was like, no, I'm gonna wait till I'm a sophomore. And I wish I didn't do that.
Stop being such a don't self-critique yourself so much. It's so bad. Your art is amazing. Like, even if it's ugly, somebody else is gonna find it beautiful.
Other than these verbal responses, I also collected a lot of written responses from these little red boxes set up around school. The question I posed being, what does creating or performing mean to you? I got an array of answers, many seeing art as an escape, some a form of communication and connection, others a way to make money, and some for fun, or something else. Overall, after hearing such a variety of equally true and valid answers from all these different young artists, it's become abundantly clear that there isn't one true answer for why one does art. Though, I'm still curious. Is art even possible as a career? It feels like everywhere you go, you're told some way or another that becoming an artist or a performer just isn't very plausible. I decided to ask the staff around my school to get insight into what their careers looked like and what creating means to them.
I'm Rosh.
Sunny Holmes. I'm Julie Fowler.
I'm Rob Thompson.
Hi, my name is Austin P. Karna.
I am Lori Olson Williams.
I would say it means being able to not necessarily calmly, I guess, but just like freely express myself no matter like how I'm feeling, and taking into account, like it's like a full body experience, whether it's like making visual art or dancing or playing music or something. Just being able to like get into my body and out of my head a little bit.
It's primarily a way of connecting with other human beings, but also there's just something deep down inside that is missing if I'm not making things, if I'm not doing something other than just existing. You know, there's that drive to create, and I don't know any better way to explain that than if I don't have a project on the go, I feel a little bit lost. When we get to the end of a show here, because I've put so much into it, I always have a few days of feeling a little bit like a puppet with my strings cut. It's just like suddenly there's a hole. And I feel like that when I don't have personal projects on the go too. You know, so that's what it is. It's like it's such a part of who I am and what I've been doing for my whole life, that there's just a need that needs to be felt. But it's also I'm very introverted, really, and this is my community. These are like the people I get to connect with, and audiences are an extension of that.
Oh, that's such a big question. I think it's really, for me, creating is an expression of the human condition, of being able to explore things that maybe we as people wouldn't necessarily talk about all the time in out in the open, and to be able to explore that, to get out of all of the barriers and walls that we put up as humans, and be able to experience some emotions, experience some things. I'm speaking specifically of like theater stuff, where you get to be somebody else for a little while and can experience some of that, and then expose some of our follies to our fellow human beings and go, maybe we don't want to be like this. I think that's, for me, that's a lot of the joy that I get out of creation. And when as a performer, it's the ability to actually step outside of myself and not have to be me for a little while, and be able to explore some other things in that way.
It was really messy. Like, I would love to be able to tell a story that was like, I had this clear vision when I was young, and I followed these little steps along the way, and it was very segmented. That is not what it was. It was messy. It was filled with all kinds of false starts and failures until I found my way here. And I think that messiness made me a stronger artist. It made me more committed to this now. There were moments where I fully walked away from art in general, and I kind of bought into all the stereotypes that we hear about a career in the arts, and I bought into it, and I let kind of the demons and the negative thoughts around that sort of infect me, and I left and I walked away from it and wasn't happier there. And I came back to it even more passionate about it. But I think in the end, I liked the struggle. Happily Ever After is a crappy story. We tell stories about the process prior to that, and I think a career and a life in the arts is embracing that struggle and embracing the story and the journey along the way.
Really messy and non-linear. I went to college directly out of high school for theater, basically because it was the one place that I felt I ever fit in. And there's a whole bunch of stories about getting the schooling and how that was. But at the end of it, I both had a plan and was feeling really sort of burned out on theater. It turns out I was burned out basically on a bad departmental experience, not the art itself. So when I went to look into grad school, it was not a clear path. And to be frank, I've never followed up on that. You know, I've got my bachelor's and that's what I've got. And then I was getting married and we were looking at buying a house. And so there was the whole, and I need employment right now kind of deal. So the art kind of, I started taking some Middle Eastern dance classes and I got into costuming for that through my teacher. And then I made my wedding gown and I went, you know, I could dig doing this. So I took a detour into the wedding industry for quite a while, actually. And then at some point, one of my dance colleagues found, it was a little school in Hopkins that was looking for a costumer for their dance productions. And I went and interviewed with the Main Street School of Performing Arts and got that job. And then the next summer, I was approached by a director at the school who was looking to do Dracula, which of course my theater heart went, oh gosh, yes please. Period costuming and blood, I'm all over this. And the rest is kind of history. Along the way, there's been day jobs of varying kinds. I've been a medical secretary, I've done retail, and the whole foray into the wedding industry, which was, that was a learning curve. That was an experience, and yeah, there are reasons I don't do that anymore. But it's been messy and nonlinear, and frankly, if I were not married to someone who has a day job, has a steady job, it would have been very, very difficult for me to be as involved in the art world as I am right now.
I was really interested in art growing up. Like, it was fun for me, but I never thought of pursuing it as a career until kind of late in high school. And I looked at some art schools, but I ultimately went to the University of Iowa to major in writing. I was really into like creative writing at that point. But then when I was there, I just couldn't shake like the feeling of like the art schools that I had toured, and like the energy and the quality of the art classes compared to what I was getting. So I ended up transferring to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and wasn't really sure, like, I didn't have a ton of art experience prior to college. Like, I just kind of did a little on my own and like had like a couple art classes. So I was looking at different kind of majors. I looked at photography, illustration, graphic design, kind of tried out classes in all of those. And then I really liked my design classes, so I started to pursue that. And then I worked in design for about 10 years after college and realized that it was just kind of like a lot of sitting behind a computer in a cubicle, and it was like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like active enough for me. Like the lifestyle was like, it was very isolating. But I taught some art classes in college and really enjoyed it. And so I decided to pursue getting my teaching license and master's. And I've been doing that ever since. And like, that's super fun. Like I think it was a risk to like be dealing with a bunch of debt from college and then like deciding to go back in and incur more debt for another degree. But it paid off because I really loved like teaching and like helping students through their journey of creating art. Like, it's really fun to be a part of that, like hundreds of times a year. Like, so that was my career journey, basically.
Yes, all of them. Well, as a performer, as an actor, like I said earlier, the work is piecemeal. You don't necessarily, unless you are working on serial television or something like that, you don't necessarily know when your next gig is. So your first gig is going really well, that one's done. You may not have another one for 6 months to a year, which is really hard. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, especially for live theater performers. It's all about the auditioning. Your job becomes the audition. And so you might have a part-time job where you're working serving tables or being a barista or answering phones in some office or something. But you are always working toward that next audition. And then you get to go on vacation when you're casting a show and you go and do the work that you really want to do. So that was a huge surprise to me. It was like, oh wait, just because I go and audition for this theater, I'm only cast in one show. I'm not cast in a whole season. And so getting that kind of work is really hard to get. And it can be, it's a great grind, and there's a lot of excitement in it, but it can easily be discouraging in that. That's why I ended up being a stage manager, because they were working for a season at a theater, which was a lot easier, and it was a steady paycheck, and I knew I could pay my bills, which was really important. Still is, oddly enough. That was one of the biggest eye-opening moments that I had. Not that I minded that, because I had other work as I was being an actor, but to realize that I was going to constantly have to be auditioning and doing things was a surprise, but not like overwhelming surprise.
I think that was probably it. Like, just realizing that like that wasn't, it's one thing to be like taking classes in something and you're surrounded by your peers and you're having critiques all the time, and then to go into the job and realize that it's very different. I didn't understand what the reality of like the day-to-day would be working in that environment. And I was very picky about like, I didn't want to sell things. I didn't want to work in advertising. Like I was really idealistic about like, I wanted to work in for nonprofits or publishing. So I already went out into the world with like a really specific goal. Like so it limited like the kinds of jobs I was looking for. And then when you're working for like publishers and they're, you know, and the rise of the internet and all these publishing houses were getting bought out or going out of business, I ended up having to move jobs quite a bit and working for little design studios that are working mostly for nonprofits, and there's like just not a lot of money in that. So I ended up like, it was very unstable, and like that freaked me out too. Like I didn't like having to worry about, you know, when I was doing freelance for a while, like when am I gonna get my next client? You know, am I gonna have enough work this month? Like it was really stressful. So that was tough. I think that's kind of in general a challenge of going for a job in the arts. Like it just can be, it's a lot of hustle involved. Like you have to really be able to like put yourself out there and like network, you know, and like sell yourself. And I don't think that was really my personality. So that was challenging for sure.
Oh, tons. Are you kidding? Wow. Yes. Any creative field, you know, performing arts, studio arts, whatever, you should not approach them in the same way that you would approaching a career in any other field, like a STEM field or something. It is going to be very entrepreneurial. For instance, people who want to be performers, there isn't a company out there hiring rock stars, right? Nobody's gonna, you know, post a job listing on Indeed for a superstar, right? Whatever. So if that's it for you, right? If you want to be a big name touring musician or dancer or actor or whatever, you have to treat your career almost like being a small business owner, and your small business is you, right? And the skills that you are selling. So that can be a big mindset shift for a lot of young artists, thinking of their career not as something that somebody else is going to hire me to do, like a normal job. It's something that I have to be an entrepreneur about, and I have to think much more like a small business owner in terms of managing myself, considering myself more, well, self-employed, and being totally responsible for everything. And that can be, again, like a big mindset shift for a lot of young people who, you know, like their parents have normal jobs, and so they learn from their parents about how they went through school, how they got their first job, and how they sort of got started on their career. And then to realize that none of those lessons apply to the area that they want to go in, that can be really stressful. So it's those types of learning experiences that can really make a young artist reconsider what they thought they wanted their career to look like. And I went through a number of those. Like I said, the transition from amateur touring to semi-professional touring to professional touring, I find myself enjoying it less and less the more I did it and the more I got paid for it, which was weird. And so, decided to try something else. Here I am teaching. Like I said, fulfills a lot of the same creative itches and passions and stuff like that, but without having to live on a bus with a bunch of people you may or may not enjoy for like weeks or months at a time.
I want them excited. Like, that's it. Like, that's my end goal. Like, if you are passionate and excited about what you're doing, I've done my job. You are gonna figure out all the other pieces if you have that passion. And if I instill a little bit of that fire inside of you and get you really excited about what you're doing and about the possibilities of what you can do, I've won.
I really hope, I mean, the biggest thing that I hope is that they realize they can do whatever it is they put their mind to. I am a firm believer that we as humans are only limited by ourselves. We may not be perfect at it. We're gonna fail. We're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna fall down when you're dancing. It's gonna happen. But it makes you stronger, and you learn where, okay, I'm not as good at this turn. I have to practice that more. I have to spend more time than someone else on this. That doesn't make me less. It just makes my journey different. And so that's the big impact that I hope I have, is that we all are capable of pursuing whatever dream we may have, and doing it. It can happen. It's not necessarily going to be overnight, and it's hard work. It's hard work.
Oh my gosh. The students here, you guys are the next generation. I want to make sure that nobody else runs into the same stumbling block I did with not knowing things. So much of what we do, especially I think in the theater, we expect people to pick things up by osmosis. And I want to make sure that people get told things directly. So that you know, for example, what backstage etiquette actually looks like. So you know that it's okay to turn down a role. It's okay to take some time off and do something else. You know, you're not going to drop into a black hole. People aren't going to forget about you. I don't want anyone to feel burnt out on their art. You know, so if all I can teach people is, hey, have a life. Have a life outside of the rest of it. Go see a movie, do some stuff with your friends, do a completely different kind of art. It's all good, it's all relevant. Also, I would really hope that I can teach at least a small number of students how to put up a hem and attach buttons and snaps for their own selves, because those are life skills. But I think just how to not get derailed. Even when you do get derailed, how to keep coming back to it.
Take care of yourself, like mentally, physically, because you can't work right if you're not feeling okay. And maybe sometimes your therapy is art, or it is journaling, or it is moving or creating. But then other times it can feel like a job. And so having other activities or knowing what you can do to kind of like replenish your spirit and knowing yourself and not pushing yourself so hard that you hate what you used to love. So taking care of yourself is always so important, especially we've learned through the pandemic.
One of the things I loved when I was in school was feedback and the critique process, whether that's you responding to an audience in a performance, or you are in a formal critique, or your work's in a gallery and people are giving you feedback. When you leave school, that feedback ends. So you need to find the people in your life that you trust and you value their opinions and you value their advice, and seek out those who are going to give you feedback. And not just those who, you know, mom is great and mom is always going to be proud of every artwork that you create and those kind of things, but also the people who are going to be brave enough to tell you the things that you can do better and to be brave enough to tell you that they don't understand what you're doing. Find and cultivate people in your life that you trust and you value their feedback from it, and continually get that from them long, long after you're out of school.
I think when I was high school age, I had just a lot of people telling me, like, don't do it, you're not gonna make any money, it's hard, you know, it's like a hard life. My mom was like super supportive. Like, she was like, if this is what you want to do and this is what you're passionate about, like, I'll support this journey for you. And that really helped. You know, that's why I think I kind of was wishy-washy and like couldn't decide at first. But yeah, I think like just the fact that she was kind of like, you have to go after what's going to make you happy in life. And, you know, if it's a struggle, or you'll keep struggling, you know, but it's going to ultimately give you the most fulfillment.
Hi, I'm Lee Bellman, a 10th grade visual art major at Penn. And I've been doing this video project for the past year. Well, a couple months, but school year. Art in all of its forms has always been the way that I chose I would interact with the world. Each pivotal stage of my life so far, I feel like I could define with art in some way. When I was young, it would be performing those leaps that I loved in dance class. In elementary, it'd be publicly performing songs I spent way too little time learning with full confidence. In middle school, it'd be that feeling of reciting lines I spent months learning and hearing the response of the audience laughter for the first time. And throughout my life, it'd be the hours I've sunken into my sketchbook, because it was almost always easier to explain things with a picture instead of words. For right now, I still want to explore what art means to me. And honestly, maybe I'll never truly find one answer for me. And if there's anything I've learned from this project, is that that's okay. No matter what, I'll always be right. Whether I want to do arts for others' entertainment, a personal enjoyment, a career, a hobby, an escape, or for communication and community, no matter what my answer may become, no one's experience must be defined. As for the practicality of a career in the arts, I still feel pretty scared about the idea of jumping into the pool and not looking back. But now I think that's probably alright too. Each adult I spoke with struggled in their own ways when starting their careers in the arts, plans or otherwise. But ultimately, they didn't drown and stay there. They're all currently in a career that they would find creatively fulfilling, and most agree that the struggle ultimately made them a better artist today. Overall, I feel overwhelmingly appreciative to everyone who took the time to share their experiences with me. And even though my answers have technically stayed the same since the start of this, I do feel far more secure about pursuing art into the foreseeable future. And I'm excited to see what that'll entail.